Easy. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here and present some details and information that we have ready for you today about CSM evolution and what's next about our beloved CSM. But for sure, yes, presentation is not working. But before we will jump into the evolution of CSM, let's take a look at the current state of CSM, which I'm proud to say is pretty impressive. So since the permissionless transition in the very end of January 2025, CSM got additional 72 node operators registered, with the total number currently sitting at 412 node operators. That's pretty impressive given that CSM has been live on mainnet for less than 6 months now. Next thing, active validators. So during the early adoption period, there was a limit on the maximum number of validators for each node operator of 12 validators, and only participants from the early adoption list were able to join. So even though the total number of node operators was relatively high, the total number of active validators was somewhere around 2K. But now we got additional 4,000 active validators, and CSM is currently filled in to the top with its share limit being 2% and the current share being 2%. Okay, but now you will ask, you now have a lot of validators in CSM, but how does it impact the performance of the protocol? Because curated operators are known to be well-performing and doing great. And I have an answer for you. CSM is performing above any other permissionless staking solution on Ethereum market, with the average 30-day performance, according to rated.network, of 97%, which is absolutely amazing given that the network average is just slightly higher than this value. And the network is definitely populated mostly by professional operators. So for the permissionless module, where independent home and community stakers are validating, that's a great result, and I'm pretty proud of it. And all that comes with the additional safety guarantees for the protocols and STETH holders, because all of this 6K validators are secured by more than 10,000 STETH worth of bond, which means that even in a catastrophic slashing scenario for CSM at a current scale, all the losses for the STETH holders will be covered from the bond. Now let's talk about evolution, about future of CSM. And there's three main points that Lido contributors see the evolution of CSM moving towards. The first one is for sure scaling of CSM, because current 2% is very small. That's definitely not the final point here. The second thing is that community staking module is called community staking module for a reason, and this reason is community stakers, independent home stakers, managed stakers, or you name that, independent people running validators for Ethereum. And the second main goal of CSM evolution is to keep facilitating participation of community stakers as much as possible, moving the current limits of Ethereum network of incentives for community stakers on Ethereum network to a brand new level. And the third one, which is definitely not the last here, is competitive fee structure. Because if CSM wants to scale, if Lido contributors wants to scale CSM, if Lido DAO members wants to scale CSM, the fee structure in the module should be competitive with the market and not present any inconsistencies or uncertain conditions. So let's talk about scaling. CSM currently sitting at 2% of Lido protocol TVL, and at the same time, 2% is its current share limit, which means that New validators can be added, or not added, but deposited in CSM only if the protocol TVL increases, and 2% of each protocol TVL increase might be allocated to CSM, which limits the free spots for new home and community stakers. And the ultimate goal of the evolution of CSM is to change this number from 2% to something around 10% or maybe even more. And that's all in 2025. That's an ambitious goal, and it comes with a lot of challenges and complicated things to overcome, but we definitely have a solution for it. And as Lido contributors, we believe that this goal is achievable. So to achieve this goal, and while still maintain the participation of community stakers and not just fill in the whole module with professional operators, there should be some special treatment and special conditions for community stakers. And it's very hard to actually distinguish professional node operators and home and community stakers, judging only by on-chain data, while not asking for some form of KYC or proof of real identity. And that's a challenging task, and it comes in two parts. So the first one is how to identify these community stakers. And this part has been heavily worked on and will be revealed, I believe, in the nearest future for the review of the community. And the next thing is for sure technical implementation on CSM level, because currently CSM only support different bond requirements for early adopters and for permissionless participants. But there's definitely more parameters and more special conditions that can be offered for the community stakers. And this is one of the topics of CSM evolution. And finally, fees. As I mentioned before, CSM can only offer different bonding requirements for different node operator types, and there's only 2 node operator types currently in CSM. Well, that should be changed. And that should be changed in favor of community stakers, so that professional operators and large stakers will not benefit from this incredible 6% staking fee, which is unseen for the market. And if you will look around and you will look at the other staking protocols, basically the combination of a current bond requirement in CSM and 6% staking fee is basically unseen. So instead of giving 6% to everyone, no matter the type of the node operator, no matter the size of the node operator, in CSM evolution, we see the approach when we transition to 6%, but for community stakers exclusively and at a certain scale. All these 3 directions would require a lot of tech research, and so on. And while research is still in progress, and we will share it slightly later, we can already share some information about tech. And this tech is CSM version 2. And here's a short summary picture, like the shortest possible TLDR that I was able to come up with, describing the main aspects of CSM v2. So let's start with the top left corner, entry gates and extensions. As we all know, CSM is not just an product for users, because there's a lot of integrations on top of CSM. There's a lot of different other protocols willing to build on top of CSM, willing to integrate with CSM. And even though currently all these integrations are for sure possible, we want to extend this approach. We want to make CSM even more friendly for integrations and allow for a modular level on top of CSM that would allow parties like DVT operators or other staking protocols or whoever else to extend the functionality of CSM by developing their own extensions. And it will also allow Lido DAO to create different entry gates or pathways for different types of node operators, to distinguish them between each other and to offer them these special conditions. And moving down, we see custom parameters for node operator types. So the overall concept of node operator types will be introduced in CSM version 2, and it will allow for a way more precise customization of each and every aspect of node operators and validators operating within CSM. So things like priority queues will now be available for the identified community stakers. Custom reward shares that would allow for this tailored fee structure system would also be available and will be configurable differently for different node operator types, as well as custom performance threshold and much, much more. So basically, any parameter in CSL will now be available for configuration for a specific node operator type, which will open huge possibilities for Lido DAO to reason about the quality of the node operators, the types of the node operators, and for sure incentives for small home and community stakers. But these are the new features that we are very excited about. And at the same time, there's several things that were definitely missing in CSM version 1 in terms of operational reliability and of protocol safety. And one of them is Performance Oracle. As you all guys know, currently CSM Performance Oracle only tracks the attestation, not even success rate, but attestation submission rate, which is definitely a great proxy for the validator uptime. However, it does not fully reflect the validator performance and the validator contribution to the overall Ethereum network. That's why an improved performance oracle will be introduced in CSM version 2 that will also account for block proposals and sync committee votes accuracy. And as I mentioned before, each and every parameter in CSM will now be configurable, which means that the weight coefficients between the success rate of these different duties like attestations, block proposals, and sync committee votes will also be configurable depending on the node operator type. And for community stakers, the emphasis might be placed on attestations so that the conditions in terms of performance would still remain the same, and community stakers will not suffer any penalties or missed rewards because of their not perfect sync committee participation. Because as we all know, if you are validating from a distant location, say Argentina, you have high chances of missing several sync committee votes compared to the professional operators validating from a huge data centers. The next thing that was missing in CSM version 1 is the way to deal with a systematic bad performance. And that's why the strike system will be introduced. So after getting a certain amount of strikes, the validator will be ejected, and the strike will be assigned for a bad performance within a frame. So if your validator will be systematically performing badly for a relatively long period of time, it will now be ejected from the community staking module to maintain performance of the protocol and to maintain stable APR for STF holders and other CSM participants. And to enable this feature, we for sure need to support a brand new EIP 7002 that will go live on mainnet as soon as May 7th with Spectra upgrade. So it would not only allow for the forced ejection of bad performance, but it will also open new possibilities for the home stakers who had lost their keys for some reason, or who are willing to exit their validators while being away from their validation machine and not being able to access their validator keys. And that was just the shortest gist of what is coming in CSM version 2. If you are looking for more information, scan the QR code on the screen and give it a deep dive. And by the way, all research forum posts and all the documents that are published by Lido contributors are open to comments or to anyone. And if you believe that something is missing, or if you have any questions, make sure to submit them on research forum or directly in the document describing CSM version 2. And that was it about CSM future. In if we trust, and let's keep CSM let's keep scaling CSM, let's keep CSM for community stakers, and let's increase the number of home and community stakers on Ethereum network together. Thank you.
Dima, you'll forgive me if you covered this in the meeting because I had to step away for a second. But one of the questions that we've gotten in the Discord a couple of times is, will CSMV2 have OX02 or basically like increased MaxiB support?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from the get-go, CSM version 2 will not have OX02 withdrawal credentials, and there's several reasons for it. First of all, the core Lido protocol should introduce support for this new type of withdrawal credentials, and for such a large protocol as Lido, such a change cannot be done recklessly, so it will definitely take some time. And the next thing is to consider the demand for this validators, because if you are scaling validators, if you are transitioning from 32 ETH to 2048 ETH, bond requirement would inevitably increase. And as we see from the real on-chain data about CSM, approximately 30% of CSM node operators are currently running between 1 and 3 validators, which means that with CSM for large validators, they would most likely not be able to participate. But we are definitely investigating this option. And in the nearest future, we will come up with the plans regarding that for the protocol in general and for CSM specifically. So should there be a demand, a separate version of CSM using the existing code base with no additional audits might be deployed alongside the existing CSM that will only allow for large validators. So we're definitely investigating this topic, but by default, CSM version 2 will still only support 0x01 validators.